Let's talk a little bit about slop, what it is, how to diagnose it, and more importantly, how to fix it. Slop is really just the play, the movement that you have in your drivetrain. So as an example, this back wheel right here, that's sloppy. This one here, not so much. Now, if you've noticed slop in your vehicle and you've ever gone to these forums and you solicit some help, you're always going to get some wise ass that comes back and says, slop is good, man. And to a degree, yes. Slop can help a vehicle be a little more forgiving. I mean, you obviously don't want everything too tight. However, I can tell you for a fact that you can certainly get yourself in a situation to where the slop is so bad that it's affecting your vehicle's performance. So think in terms of that. Once it gets to the point to where your vehicle suddenly behaves differently, you got a problem. Now, I've had two vehicles where the slop was so bad it was actually affecting the vehicle's performance. At the same time, even if it's not adversely affecting the vehicle and how it handles and performs, I don't like it. I just don't like slop. That's how it is. Consequently, I've battled slop quite a bit, and I've solved slop quite a bit. These are the things that I have realized to be true about slop. Some vehicles are just that. They're sloppy by nature. That is how they're built. This T801 XT, I specifically remember the day I got it all together, I was like, damn, that's sloppy. In fact, I've actually tightened it up just a little bit since then. However, this doesn't mean you have to settle, right? Just because it's from the factory sloppy, if you don't want it sloppy, it doesn't have to be sloppy. We're going to get to how to fix it soon. So slop is rarely contained in one area, and that is bad slop. Only once have I replaced a single part and it fixed the slop completely. And that was here on the Beast, my Savage, when I put on the heavy-duty rod ends. In fact, it stopped it so much, it kind of freaked me out a little bit because it was so tight that it took me a while to kind of get used to it, but again, I still prefer it like that. And I have the steering and I have it all smoothed out. But again, the thing you want to know is that it's rarely tied to a specific part. Without a doubt, every vehicle I have that uses a pillow ball suspension has been nowhere near as sloppy, such as this Mugen right here, as compared with one that uses a C-hub. I mean, it has just been right down the line. C-hub, sloppy. Pillow ball, not sloppy. That has been my experience, at least. I personally think one of the most important actions that you can take has to do with your bulkhead. Specifically, when you're cleaning it, make sure that you clean the hell out of the little bearing inserts right there. Okay, because that's the sort of stuff that's going to wreak havoc, especially if you have to put shims in there or whatever. But it's the little things like that that are going to make a huge difference. I've always said, remember, clean with intent. Now on this vehicle here, I recently put on some Lunsford turnbuckles and Dubro rod ends pivot balls. And I have to tell you that I knew it wasn't going to stop all the slop. But out of everything I've put on so far, it has made the biggest difference. Now, I know exactly where the slop is coming from on this vehicle. I'll get to that in a second. But right now, this is, in my mind, acceptable slop. That's kind of bad. One of them in the back was bad. That one there. So that one and that one are bad. What's causing it? So some items that can cause slop, I'll just kind of quickly go through this. Any sort of rod end pivot balls, any sort of outer hinge pins, any sort of play in the outdrives, your axles, your spindles, your steering knuckles, your drag links and or Ackerman. Let's see, bearings, of course, your steering link, your bell crank, steering post, your servo horn, and the servo itself. Well, it's really two things causing it, and one of them I didn't mention in my little spiel on what can cause slop, and one of the things I forgot to mention is wheel hex hubs. In fact, I have solved slop by changing out wheel hex hubs. How do I know this? Well, it's trial by error, because I have replaced 100% of the parts, and it's still sloppier than factory. The only thing I have, I should say I replaced 99.9%. The only thing I haven't are the wheel hex hubs, because I can't get those. So it is definitely the wheel hex hubs. To that end, there are a few other things that are causing it, and one of them is the outer hinge pins right here and on both sides. So think in terms of two types of movement. You've got up and down, you've got side to side, right? Side to side is usually going to be, like I said, the wheel hub, the pivot balls, your bearing axle, something like that. And then you can get up and down, which could be like your spindles, like your kingpins or the bushings inside of your steering knuckles, things such as that. Or you get this sort of movement. Now, a lot of folks might look at something like the slop on this wheel right here and say to themselves, oh, well, you just got to change your rod ends and your pivot balls. Look how much it's moving. Well, I can tell you, these are new. That's not the problem. The problem instead are the A-arms right here and the amount of play we have right there. How do I know this? Well, I did that same trick I talked about, and hopefully you guys can see it, where I hold this stationary, but I'm still able to move this. So if I hold this right here stationary, I can still move that. So in other words, this is causing that to move, not vice versa. Why is this like this? This could be a lot of things. The arms could have stretched. I might need to put like a little shim here or something. My wheelbase shims, I might have put an incorrect size in there. Who knows? And as I noted earlier, this front one here, it's got this kind of, well, I'll just show you. When you get that, that is your wheel hex hubs. Almost guaranteed. I mean, there might be a few other things, but that's just your wheel hex hubs. Replace them. And if you want to vet it out, which you can do, you want to test it, what you can do is just take the ones from the rear, put them on the front or whatever. Find one that doesn't have that amount of slop and see if that's it. So how do we fix slop? Well, as I noted, first and foremost, the thing you need to do is find it, because all you're going to be doing is chasing rabbits. You want to make sure you explicitly know the parts that are causing it. And there's going to be times where you're going to be flat out wrong, but hey, at least you got some backup parts, right? Some tips that might help. First, your bearings. So bearings will actually play a role in the amount of slop you have. And it's a good practice to replace your bearings as well. Anytime you see a lot of movement in an area that is like up and down or something, you can consider shimming it. One good example might be, let's say, your steering post. Watch this post right here. See, hopefully you guys can see how it's going up and down. Or any kind of in and out slop, such as, perhaps your out drives or something such as that. You can always shim those. The thing is, be very, very careful when you shim things that are not supposed to be shimmed. Just because you run a risk of adding a whole lot of unneeded friction. The next thing you can do is invest in a good set of tie rods and pivot balls. By that, look for a brand or a company who pretty much claims little to no slop. you know, there's a trade-off now, because at the same time, if, you know, the ones with less slop don't pivot as freely either, right? So you know, you want to make sure you don't get something that is just like tight and it's going to, again, cause any sort of binding. But as I noted earlier, you know, the only time I've ever seen slop eliminated in one full swoon with a single part were rod ends and pivot balls. So they do have, in my opinion, the biggest effect. Another thing you can do, which has actually worked very well for me, is get some threading tape and put that around the screws that go inside of the pivot ball. So as an example, something like this right here. And again, it's really just this white, some people call it plumber's tape, threading tape, whatever. What's nice about it, it's cheap, it works. You can put, you know, as much or as little as you want, and it actually stays. So, you know, it'll, even when you unscrew it, it'll still be on there. Just, once again, be careful with it.
Do a refresh after you body, then of course means you can't have no trouble doing old school and I'm also a Type 7 really rough one camera. I gotta keep my engines on and off quite a bit. Engine mounts can be a wear item, so not one, two. Instead of just planetary sun gears have well over 10 gallons. Fuel tank, of course, although I'm going to be running a Bluetooth clutch, I do want to break in the OS engine with some different clutch shoes, but I just have to go and just get a new flywheel, collet, and all that stuff. There's a reason I got a Lucy A210 flywheel pins collet set up. I'm not going to tell you why, but I can't be in this hobby without having the right tools, that's for sure. These ProTech ones, they're not bad. Bang for buck, you know, they're up there with it. Since my Mugen is the track star and it runs in probably the dustiest conditions, I can't take any chances whatsoever with it. No. It's got a little Honda paint mask. Type 7. Finally, I got some bearings on the big size front ones, and actually a whole bunch of other stuff. And finally, something I never anticipated I would get, but it's a new bearing here because they're expensive as hell. I'm going to service on it. So that's my haul. I got a lot more stuff to do, but this is what you call maintenance. Additionally, I got a new set of universals. Savage. I got quite a few sets. This was on sale. Additionally, I'm thinking about putting universals in the rear. It's got two new rear Aeons for Type 7. Additionally, some new camber links and rear carriers for the Type 7. Like these camber links here, they're titanium. Got a new top plate. I'll do a video soon at some point on how that works. And of course,